Please, he's never done anything like this before.
Then this will be the last time. What do you mean?
He works. Here. Until he learns.
This mother thought a simple apology would fix everything, but she had no idea who she was standing in front of. Her son made one mistake. Just one. But that mistake cost more than money. It cost respect. And when she said sorry, the giant rancher didn't shout. He didn't get angry. He just smiled. And what he said next changed that boy's life forever. Stay till the end, because this lesson might change yours too. The dust hung low over the long stretch of dry land where the sun burned without. Mercy and the wind carried stories no one dared to repeat aloud. Eleanor Briggs stood at the edge of the wide ranch road, clutching her worn purse as if it could protect her from what waited ahead. Her son Tyler stood behind her, silent for once, his usual defiance replaced by something closer to fear, though he would never admit it. They had come because there was no other choice. The ranch spread out before them, endless fields, broken by fences that looked as old as the earth itself, and in the distance, a massive figure moved slowly among cattle, like something carved from stone. That was him, Caleb Stone, the man everyone in 3 counties spoke about in lowered voices, the giant rancher who never forgot a face and never forgave a mistake. Eleanor took a breath that did not quite steady her and began walking. Tyler hesitated for a second before following, kicking at the dirt like it was beneath him, though his eyes kept drifting toward the towering figure ahead. By the time they reached the main yard, Caleb was already there waiting. No one had called him yet, somehow he knew. He stood with arms folded, broad shoulders, blocking the sun, casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the ground around him. His face was hard, not angry, just unreadable, like someone who had seen too much to react to anything small. Eleanor forced herself to step forward. "Mr. Stone," she said, her voice softer than she intended. Caleb did not answer immediately. His gaze shifted from her to Tyler, then back again, measuring, weighing, judging without saying a word. "I came to apologize," she continued. "My son, he made a mistake." Tyler stiffened behind her but said nothing. Caleb finally spoke, his voice deep, slow, and calm in a way that made it more intimidating than shouting ever could. "A mistake," he repeated. Eleanor nodded quickly. Yes, he didn't mean any harm. He just didn't understand. Caleb took a step closer, boots heavy against the dirt, and now the size of him was undeniable, towering over both of them like a wall. "He cut my fence," he said simply. Eleanor swallowed. "Yes, sir." "He let my cattle out." "Yes, sir." "Cost me 2 days and 3 hands to round them back." She lowered her eyes. "I am so sorry." There was a long silence, broken only by the distant lowing of cattle and the whisper of wind. Tyler shifted uncomfortably but still refused to speak. Caleb looked at the boy, now really looked at him, and something in his expression changed, not softer, not kinder, just sharper. "Why did you do it?" he asked. Tyler shrugged, trying to look careless, just messing around. Caleb stepped even closer, now close enough that Tyler had to tilt his head up just to meet his eyes. "Nothing on this land is for messing around," he said. The words were not loud, but they carried weight like a warning carved into stone. Eleanor stepped in quickly. "Please, he is just a kid. He doesn't understand responsibility yet." Caleb glanced at her, then back at Tyler. "Then it's time he learns." The air shifted, something invisible but undeniable. Eleanor felt it and her heart dropped. "We will pay for the damage," she said quickly, "whatever it costs." Caleb shook his head slowly. "Money doesn't fix this." "Then what do you want?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Caleb straightened to his full height, and for a moment he seemed even larger, framed by the endless sky behind him. "I want him to work it off," he said. Tyler scoffed immediately. "What?" Eleanor turned to him sharply. "Tyler." Caleb ignored the interruption. 2 weeks, he continued, sunrise to sunset. "He works here, does what he's told, learns what that fence meant." Tyler shook his head. "No way. I'm not doing that." Caleb's eyes did not move from him. "Then I call the sheriff." Silence fell hard and sudden. Eleanor's face went pale, Tyler. The boy clenched his fists, anger flashing. Across his face, but beneath it, fear was starting to show. "You wouldn't," he muttered. Caleb's voice remained steady. "Try me." "Eleanor, reach for her son's arm, Tyler, please." Tyler looked at her, then at Caleb. Then away, kicking the dirt again. But this time it was different. "Fine," he said finally, "whatever." Caleb gave a small nod. Not approval, not satisfaction, just acknowledgement. "Be here at dawn," he said. He turned and walked away like the matter was settled, like it had never been a question. Eleanor stood frozen for a moment, then let out a breath she had been holding too long. "Thank you," she called after him, though she wasn't sure if it was gratitude or relief. Caleb did not turn back. Tyler muttered under his breath, "This is stupid." Eleanor looked at him, tired but firm. "Maybe it's what you need." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land, and somewhere in the distance thunder rolled like a warning of what was still to come. Dawn came too early and too cold. Tyler arrived half asleep and already angry, the sky barely touched with light. As he walked up the long dirt road, Caleb was already there, of course, standing by the barn, like he had been there all night, waiting. "You're late," Caleb said without looking at him. Tyler checked the sky. "It's not even sunrise." Caleb finally turned, and there was something almost challenging in his expression. "On a ranch, sunrise is already late." Tyler rolled his eyes but said nothing. The first day broke him faster than he expected. There was no ease, no explanation, just work. Heavy, relentless work that didn't care about his complaints or his pride. Fixing fences, hauling feed. Cleaning stalls until his hands blistered and his back ached in ways he had never known. Caleb watched, but didn't hover, correcting only when necessary. Never raising his voice, but never offering comfort either. By midday, Tyler was exhausted. By evening, he was silent. Eleanor watched from a distance that night when he came home, different, somehow quieter, his usual arrogance, replaced by something she couldn't quite name. The second day was worse. The third day, something shifted. Tyler stopped complaining. Not because it got easier, but because he started to understand. The fence wasn't just wood and wire. The cattle weren't just animals. Every piece of that land meant something. Every task had weight. Every mistake had consequence. Caleb noticed. On the fourth day, he handed Tyler a tool without a word, and Tyler took it without argument. On the fifth day, Caleb spoke more than a sentence at a time. "You rush," he said, watching Tyler struggle with a post-hole digger. Tyler wiped sweat from his forehead. "Yeah, well, I'm not trying to live here." Caleb shook his head slightly. "That's not the point." "Then what is—" Caleb paused, looking out over the land like the answer was written there. "The point is doing something right, whether you stay or go." Tyler didn't respond, but he worked slower after that, more careful. Days passed, and the rhythm of the ranch started to settle into him. Wake before the sun, work until it's set, eat, sleep, repeat. No shortcuts, no excuses. Somewhere along the way, Tyler stopped seeing Caleb as just the giant rancher and started seeing the man behind it. A man who carried something heavy, not in his body, but somewhere deeper. One evening, as they sat on the edge of the field, watching the sky turn orange, Tyler spoke without thinking. "Why do you care so much?" Caleb didn't look at him. "About all this," Tyler continued, "it's just land." Caleb was quiet for a long moment, then finally said, "It was my father's." Tyler glanced at him, surprised. "And his father's before him," Caleb added. That was all he said, but it was enough. Tyler looked out at the land differently after that. On the 10th day, Tyler fixed a section of fence alone. Caleb inspected it silently, then gave a single nod. It felt bigger than any praise he had ever received. On the final day, Tyler stood where he had first arrived, no longer kicking the dirt, no longer looking away. Caleb walked up to him. "You're done," he said. Tyler nodded, "Yeah." Another silence. But this one was different, not tense, not heavy, just real. "Sorry," Tyler said finally, the words coming out rough but honest. Caleb studied him for a moment, then something rare happened. He smiled. Not wide, not soft, just enough to change everything. "That's all I wanted," he said. Eleanor arrived shortly after watching the two of them. From a distance, her eyes filling with quiet relief. The wind moved across the land again, but this time it carried something new. Not just stories of mistakes, but of change, of growth, of something earned the hard way. And as Tyler walked away from the ranch, he wasn't the same boy who had arrived. In Caleb's stone, the giant rancher simply watched him go. Knowing some lessons stayed long after the work was done,